The unappreciated subtle details of a video games, from civilians in the background to design on posters and animations, aren't really something that players notice. And we got a bit of a deep dive through the latest Payday 3 dev diary. So this might interest some of you, but not all of you, because it was more of the development side, how that worked. There wasn't really any new features or gameplay elements that we could leech from this dev diary. But it most certainly interested me, because they also touched upon graphic design. For those people that don't know, that is my profession. I'm a graphic designer, so this dev diary really did interest me. So let's get started. So one of the things that they mentioned in this diary, they said that they're making a Payday New York rather than authentic New York, but should feel the same, but when you look at the details individually, it's not the same. And I think this is really important for a game like Payday, because it isn't all hyper-realistic to the exact detail and pixel, because it isn't. This takes me back to what they said about collaborations and doing collaborations like the Alesso heist, like John Wick in Payday 2, that if it fitted the game, they'll do it. And I think this is almost the same sort of, on the same sort of vibe and level. They want it to be in the world of the Payday universe that we are used to, but make it as close to New York as possible. And I think that's really important for everybody to know. So let's talk about the animations, because this was a really good insight. They showed out a bunch of footage of the mode capture and how they were animating things, which was very cool to see from a public perspective. First person animations, like the gun animations for reloading, are all done via keyframes by hand. And if you're unfamiliar with keyframes, well, it's basically a digital version of stop motion. That's how they do it. And they've done this because they want to make it feel a bit more, what's the word I'm looking for? Exaggerated, because that will make it feel a lot better, a lot more action-packed for the player. Now, everything else, the third-person animations, all the other animations, that's all motion captured. They've done this as a base for as realistic motion as they possibly can, and the most realistic animation that we can get, because then they will adjust it through the animation. They'll use the animation and the motion capture together. They won't just do the motion capture and then whack in the game, boom, that's done. No, they'll use it both. It's combining the animation and acting skills, which is exactly what they mentioned as well. Because if you've got a good animator and a good actor, that will make it really flow and make it that authentic experience as you possibly can. And with this, they're also trying to streamline this. When they say they're doing this motion capture as a base, they want this for future content, for similar content, so it's easier for them to implement. And I think that's quite interesting to know that they're not trying to cut corners, but they're trying to work smart rather than harder. And I think that's great, because they gave the example, if they were going to implement a new weapon, they already have the base animations for all the types of weapons that they want. For example, if they were going to implement a brand new handgun, they already have a base animation for a handgun. So all they need to do is do some tweaks around the model and the specific handgun that they're implementing. So they can apply that to every single type of weapon, every single animation, not just a weapon animation. So I think that's pretty cool. So they did focus a bit on civs as well. So they're trying to bring them more to life in the New York environment by doing a variety of civ animations. I think a couple of the examples said if they were on their phone taking money from an ATM, those animations all in the background just makes it real. It makes it like you are walking in a living, breathing world. And I think that's what we want. It's something that we notice in other video games, but we don't fully appreciate. And, you know, them touching on this in a dev diary, I think is just brilliant and just fascinating to just watch and listen about. And they're also thinking about civs as an extras in films. You know, they're part of the background, they're not a focus, but they're there. They're there just to make that authentic experience better for us. Now, more about animations and more tiny details, micro destructions, you know, which is how things react if you melee them or if you shoot them. So, for example, a plant pot. If you melee it or shoot it, you know, it will break apart. The soil should, you know, spill out. That sort of detail is important, because if it didn't do that, you'd think, oh, this is definitely a video game. But in comparison, you know, if it did happen, you're thinking, oh, that's quite cool that we can smash that. Because I know there are people thinking, oh, can we do this with this? What happens if I shoot this small environment object? We've all done it, I've done it, you know, and I think focusing on that as well as the main gameplay and the mechanics just adds that immersion that we just want. We know it's not the most hyper-realistic game, but we still want that realistic immersion in the world around us. And with that, they also mentioned about the extra exaggeration, the more Hollywood style for their animations, particularly the example on the footage that we got was an explosion. Civs reacting to an explosion if you got exploded. That body flop is more over-exaggerated than it's realistic, because they've said it's unrealistic, but it's just more fun. It's more of that action style, you know. When you go to the cinema, you don't just go to the cinema for it to be hyper-realistic to how it should be in real life, but it's enjoyable to watch and experience because that's what we're there for. We're there to get away from real life and have something a bit more quirky. Now, the second thing I wanted to talk about was the design. I mentioned at the start of the video, graphic design is kind of my thing. So it was very interesting when they introduced the graphic designer and the fact that she had basically designed 50 different logo types. If you don't know what a logo type is, it's a text-based logo, a bit like the Coca-Cola logo. That is a text-based logo type. So she's done 90 of these, and there are different styles, variations, all this kind of stuff. And I think that's, you know, doing one is hard work, but doing 90 of them, that's just incredibly a lot. One thing that they added, which I 100% agree with, is the ads tell you so much about the world that you're in. And they really do, you know. I noticed there was a technological one talking about some technology that was on a digital display. In fact, it's the thumbnail for this very video that you've clicked on. And there was also a burger one. So, you know, we know there's some developing technology in the world like it would be in real life. You know, we would be seeing adverts on these digital displays from Samsung, from Apple, from Microsoft, you know, with all this new technology that we could to buy in a mobile phone, in a game console, whatever it is. But she's creating these ads in this world. And a more specific example, which is a layered example, and I'll tell you why in a second, is she's made all the logo types and the exhibition signs for the art gallery heist. And the way that they explained it is ultra layered, because they've approached it in the way that the art gallery owner has basically employed a designer to do that job, because they would ask you, okay, I've got this business, I've got this. I would like a logo or a sign doing, or a design doing that's going to be a sign, you know, whether it's going to be digital, whether it's going to be print based, like a physical sign, or if it's digital based, where it's, you know, it's going to be a banner for your social media. But it's almost imagining her as the graphic designer in the dev studio as an NPC who's a graphic designer who is employed by the other NPC who we probably will never ever see, that's the owner of the art gallery, that said, oh, I've got this new gallery. I need you to do the exhibition signs. I need you to do the logo for the actual exhibition building. But not only that, it's for all these other things that we walk past. The shops. It's not even the main building. You know, the shops that we walk past are next to the main heist area, like a fast food restaurant, like a jewelry store or a technological store. You know, that designer has to make the ads and all the signs within those shops, despite us not even interacting with them. But that's why it makes it so authentic, because it makes it real, because that's what we experience in real life, because that's been designed by someone in real life. But they're actually all fake, which that's an incredible amount of work to have. And honestly, it just fills me with inspiration even more to push my own designs. And maybe, hopefully one day, maybe I can be a designer in a game team and do that exact job, because honestly, it just sounds a bunch of fun to do as a designer. Now, I'm going to end this video on one thing that I think is incredibly important. The last thing they said in that dev diary was, remember, this is the start of a new journey. They want to build everything, but they can't right now because there is so much to do. Because remember, Payday 2 had this 10-year journey till now, and now we're starting potentially another 10-year journey, or 10+ year journey from now in 2023. They're making this base game. I think what they're saying is Payday 3 might seem lacking in comparison to what we know Payday 2 to be right now, but over the years to come, it's going to be just as filled as Payday 2. And that's everything that we learnt about the dev diary. What are your thoughts? Were you interested in this sort of dev diary? Were you not. I thought personally it was quite interesting, in my opinion, to see a bit of the background stuff and how they're working it and their thought process. If you like this video and like to see more like this one, make sure you are subscribed. Discord link is in the description below, and I will see you guys in the next one. Take care.